Well, good Friday afternoon, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope everybody's having a great day. We don't know what time the interview is going to take place with Kellen Moore. All we do know is Kellen Moore, when being asked about it, has had a one-word reply, and that is excited. He is excited about doing the interview with the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, he wants to come here and be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. At least it seems like the Cowboys are finally late to the party, but beginning to start the process. Okay. We know that Robert Saleh is going to be interviewed possibly today or tomorrow. He's interviewing with the Raiders. I still think that they're looking for him to be the defensive coordinator. But here is some interesting news that you want to hear, because this is this just blows me away, this whole concept, because this is some of the strange things that you always hear, because this is with the Cowboys. The crazier, the better when the ideas come around. So Bill Barnwell says that the Dallas Cowboys should get on the Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson bandwagon. That he should go ahead and hire Ben Johnson. Now, let's give a little background here. Ben Johnson has basically said he wants an organization that works hand in hand with the coach. Okay? And that he wants an organization to admit to past mistakes so that way they can move on to do better things. If that wasn't pointed right at the Joneses right there, I don't know what to tell you, because that's exactly what the Joneses do. They're not going to admit mistakes. Right now, they're trying to whitewash the fact that they are as much to blame for this season because of their inactivity as Mike McCarthy. But Mike McCarthy now, they're trashing him. He's the problem. He didn't get along with Dak. He wanted to get rid of Amari Cooper, and he's the one to he wanted to get rid of Kellen Moore, who's still thought to be a genius. I don't know why. So Bill Barnwell, to throw his stuff in there, he suggests that they sign and hire Ben Johnson. Wait for it, for $125 million for 5 years.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit!
Keep in mind, Mike McCarthy was paid $4 million for this year. $4 million this year. Keep in mind, Andy Reid is the highest paid coach in the NFL at $25 million. And people were saying Deion would probably want 15, 16 million. And people said the Joneses will never pay that. So he won't pay 15, 16 for Deion, but he'd pay 25 million for Ben Johnson. You know, Micah Parsons said a few weeks ago, not all money is good money. And there's a lot to be said about that, because there's places where your money will go further than others. And the problem with the Cowboys is, sorry, the Joneses are the biggest problem and impetus of keeping you from being able to win. So this is where you have to say to yourself, I don't know that this is what I want to do for any amount of money. You may have better luck going to a team that is open to you putting your vision out there. And maybe, Bill Barnwell is thinking, this is the funniest thing is, he basically said the Cowboys should go get Ben Johnson. Okay. Doesn't give a reason why. Doesn't give a reason on what should happen. Just go get this guy. That sounds like, to be honest with you, sounds like Joe the Fan. Joe the Fan, go get Ben Johnson. And they don't look at the ramifications of it, the costs, or how it's going to work, what it's going to do. Let's just put a name out there, and then we're good to go. So we still have Dion, they're still trying to flirt with that and trying to get them to hopefully do something with Dion. We got Kellen Moore. We got Robert Sala. We got Leslie. We got her on deck. And now we're talking about Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. I want to do, before I get out of here, I want to go to Rich Eisen. I love Rich Eisen. Rich Eisen and Tom Passero on the latest for all of the coaching moves right now.
Here, and you could tell me who you think the leading candidate is. Seriously. No, seriously.
I'm curious where Mike McCarthy is.
No. Well, I mean, we'll get to them in a second. I'll circle back to them, but I want to go alphabetical order in terms of jobs that are open right now and who you think is the leading candidate or who is the target that this organization would love to have over anyone else. And I go with the Chicago Bears first, Tom. Who's that?
Certainly believe, and I've said it for months, Rich, here and elsewhere, Ben Johnson. That's a job that intrigues him. I believe that he is at or near the top of their list. I think that that's a realistic possibility. I also think the way they proceeded with Mike McCarthy tells you that that's viewed as a really real candidate for them as well. They fly him and his wife up to check it out. They spent basically the whole day with him, went to dinner with him. It seemed like on paper more of a recruiting meeting than it was an interview, which makes sense when, that guy's beaten you like 19 times. You got a pretty good idea of what his resume is. I mean, Mike McCarthy gets kicked around in some circles, but he's made the playoffs 12 times in the past 18 seasons as a head coach. The Bears in that span have made it
the Cowboys
4 times. It's a really accomplished coach. They've also interviewed a ton of people, Rich. They're still doing interviews here. But I believe both those guys are real candidates. And certainly, if Ben wants to go there, I think that's going to be a real consideration.
What about waiting for Marcus Freeman by the end of Monday night? Is that real?
I brought that up on game day morning last week. You got to get past this game. I think that there was at least a possibility if Notre Dame had lost last weekend, that Marcus Freeman might have interviewed this week. It's always been, something that people who know Marcus Freeman well say there's an interest level with him. I mean, he could win the national title Monday night, Rich, and basically have a contract for life at one of the iconic programs in all of college football. You win the national title. What else is there to do? I get the pressure every year of trying to, go and win another one. The Bears are one of the iconic franchises of the NFL. They drafted Marcus Freeman as a linebacker back in 2009, never played in an NFL game. Maybe gets the opportunity to coach one. I would not completely rule that out just yet.
All right, so let's move, even though it's not alphabetically in order. I want to save the big one for last.
Of course.
Jacksonville. Who is Jacksonville's target of choice that you think stands out?
Jacksonville's done, a half dozen interviews so far. Ben Johnson is definitely someone who is still in play for that job as well. I know there were people within the league who thought that was going to be the job that Ben Johnson would target. I'm not there right now. I'm not ruling it out, but I would not say, right now Jacksonville is clearly number one for Ben Johnson. I do know that, they loved Robert Saleh in that building when he was an assistant. He interviewed in person for the job. I would not rule him out as a possibility. They've talked to a variety of other people. They talked to Liam Cohen. They talked to Patrick Graham. That one still is a fluid process, I would say, at this point, Rich, which makes sense. The way that Shad Khan has operated coaching searches in the past, he's going to take his time here. But certainly Ben and Saleh are 2 names that I would keep in mind.
All right. What about New Orleans? Who's the favored candidate there for the Saints full-time gig?
There are definitely people who believe Aaron Glenn is the one. He was the runner-up to Dennis Allen a couple of years ago, and I think that if Dennis Allen hadn't been the guy who stayed and hadn't been sort of the hand-picked successor for Sean Payton, maybe Aaron Glenn would have gotten the job at that time. I know this. Aaron Glenn loves that city. He still has relationships with some of the older players on that roster. He knows that building. He's worked with Mickey Loomis. It would make sense if that's the job that Aaron Glenn wants, but he might have multiple opportunities. I would also not rule out Mike McCarthy for that job. I believe that he will interview for that job sometime, maybe the middle of next week. He worked with Mickey Loomis when he was the offensive coordinator 20 years ago, and Mickey was a young administrator who took over as the GM. There's a mutual respect between those two. Joe Brady's also talking to them here. But I would say Aaron Glenn, Mike McCarthy are 2 of the names to watch in New Orleans.
All right, now let's move to the Jets. Again, 17 names of people they interviewed. Does that include Vrabel? or you took him off that list since he's already
No,
taken a job?
Vrabel that was the second one. We
Okay.
listed all of them there.
All right. So who do you think again that the Jets, out of all the people that they are turning these stones over? What do you think?
It's hard to get a read on the Jets, not just because of the volume of interviews, Rich, but also there's a lot of people involved in these interviews. Of course, Rick Spielman, Mike Tannenbaum are doing a lot of the football conversation, asking the football questions, but Woody is there for all of it. There's ultimately one guy who's going to make this decision. Everybody else is going to give input, but it's got to be who is Woody most comfortable with. I do believe that Aaron Glenn is a real candidate for that job. Again, we have to see if he's got multiple opportunities. Does he want to go to New Orleans? Does he want to go to the Jets? Does somebody else, maybe even Jacksonville, make him an offer? That's a possibility there. But I can't rule out really, most of the guys that they've interviewed here, Rich. I can't even sit here and rule out 100% Rex Ryan just because, his case is pretty straightforward, which is, hey, the glory years 15 years ago. Remember that? That was fun. Everybody loved us then, Woody. It hasn't gone so great since I was out of here. Bring me back. Give me a shot. I don't believe that that's going to be the hire, but I can't rule it out because, again, ultimately one person is going to make this choice, and it's Woody Johnson, who, is at a stage in his life where he wants to figure this thing out. He tried a lot of things last year. He pushed buttons, whether they were the right ones or the wrong ones. He asked a ton of questions, which is his right as the owner. Rex is used to it. He knows that he can work and has won with Woody here. Again, I'm probably talking too much about Rex Ryan, but I can't rule out a whole lot of people for that job at this point, Rich. We'll get a better feel for that when they start cutting that thing down next week.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3.
Interesting to say the least on where they are as far as the moves and things. So you kind of have to watch where are the openings, where are the good spots to be. I don't know for Ben Johnson. I mean, maybe that's the only way you get Ben Johnson to be here is to basically blow him out of the water with $25 million a year and make him the highest paid by $5 million. But I don't see that happening. That's fantasy land. But we'll see what we're going to see. I appreciate you guys, and make sure you tune in tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, so we can get going on everything that is the Cowboys. We'll have the update of where everything is. I appreciate you guys. Peace out.